Affairs Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin says the government may turn to the United States in case tensions in the disputed South China Sea escalate. Meanwhile, Malacanang says the decision to seek assistance from the U.S. is ultimately up to the president. Our senior correspondent Ina Andalong reports.
The Department of Foreign Affairs has validated reports that Chinese nationals are harvesting giant clams in Scarborough Shoal, a traditional fishing ground for Filipinos located near Zambales. It is not sitting well with Malacanang, which has recently been stepping up on its remarks regarding Chinese intrusions in the country.
It's natural because if it's our territory, therefore it is an affront to our territory and to our sovereignty.
Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin says a diplomatic protest has been filed.
This is illegal, and in fact, you're also violating conventions on environmental protection, for which we can take legal action.
That diplomatic protest, he claims, is just one of several filed against China. Numerous notes verbal were also filed, and Locsin admits China has never responded to any of these. If tensions in disputed areas rise, the Foreign Affairs Secretary says the Philippines could turn to its only military ally, the United States.
We can turn more to our only military ally.
When U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo visited Manila last February, he vowed that the U.S. will assist and protect the Philippines in case Philippine vessels or troops are attacked in disputed waters. Fortunately, it has not come to that. Malacanang is more cautious in commenting on the possibility of tapping U.S. help in the South China Sea. Doing so somewhat contradicts President Duterte's foreign policy, that is, strengthening ties with China and being less dependent on the Americans. President Duterte in the past also criticized the U.S. for its supposed inaction towards China's aggressiveness in the South China Sea, especially since the U.S. holds naval exercises there.
We will wait for the president's decision on that. This will require serious study because there may be repercussions on both sides.
The situation in the waters near Pag-asa Island is being closely monitored. President Duterte has called out China for letting its vessels linger in the area, which is clearly within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. But China has been tight-lipped and unresponsive, both to the supposed mountain of Philippine diplomatic protests and to President Duterte's warning for the East Asian giant to lay off Philippine waters. Locsin says, let's wait and see. Meantime, Malacanang remains optimistic China will come around and give the answer it wants to hear. Ina Andalong, CNN Philippines.
A group of fishermen from Palawan and Zambales appeals to the Supreme Court to compel government officials to save the environment in the West Philippine Sea. The fishermen, with the help of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines, are seeking a writ of kalikasan. This is to direct the Environment, Agriculture, and Justice Secretaries, as well as officials of the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, the Philippine Navy, Coast Guard, and National Police to stop neglecting their duties. Petitioners want these officials to protect and rehabilitate the environment in Panatag Shoal, Ayungin Shoal, and Panginiban Reef, which they say were heavily damaged by China's artificial island building activities. The fishermen also cite the evidence submitted by the country in its arbitration case against China. The country won, but petitioners point out the government has failed or refuses to enforce the ruling. Amid maritime issues with China, a survey shows most Filipinos have neutral trust in the East Asian giant. Based on the latest survey of the social weather stations, 32% of Filipinos have much trust in China, while 39% have little trust. This is equivalent to a -6 net or neutral trust rating, a point up from the previous survey in December last year. Meanwhile, Filipinos' trust rating for the United States remained very good at 60. 70% of those surveyed said they have much trust, and 10% with little trust in the U.S. SWS conducted the survey last month among 1,440 Filipinos. With just weeks into the election campaign, authorities are finalizing security details for the May 13 polls. The COMELEC is working with the military and police to ensure the smooth conduct of elections. Our senior correspondent David Santos reports.
With just less than a month before the midterm elections, officials sounding optimistic as election preparations shift to high gear.
Magaan ngayon. Ang tinututukan lang natin yung local. medyo magulo, siyempre.
With violence usually hounding local elections, the police are eyeing tougher security measures for candidates. As in previous elections, the police will secure urban centers while military forces will be sent to critical areas, especially in Mindanao. More than 2/3 of the total police force will perform election day duties. About 1/3 of the military will be on standby to support the police. But with still weeks into the campaign, the PNP is asking the Commission on Elections to withdraw the security detail of candidates in President Duterte's so-called narco list.
Baka merong nakapag-apply before at napirmahan namin at nabigyan na ng temporary security dito sa sinasabing narco list at na-submit natin sa COMELEC.
The PNP also wants the more than 300 local officials, which the Interior Department had recently implicated to having links with the communist movement, stripped of police escorts.
So tingnan namin kung anong magiging decision namin.
What we're removing here is the security of the individual, not the people.
We provide area security. Now, as long as we are informed kung ano yung mga schedule ng kanilang mga political rallies.
With the AFP stepping up its anti-insurgency operations, the most unprecedented in recent years, AFP Chief General Benjamin Madrigal says they have yet to receive reports of rebels collecting permit-to-campaign fees from candidates. But they are still keeping an eye on terror and extremist groups operating in the south that may disrupt the elections. The COMELEC meeting with the military and police hierarchy inside the AFP's Camp Aguinaldo on Tuesday to finalize security guidelines for the national and local elections. Another possible security challenge could come from within. That is, shady PNP and AFP members being tapped to cheat.
Tell us and we will investigate. Mga 6 months hanggang ngayon, ongoing pa rin yung reshuffling natin.
Both COMELEC and the PNP reshuffled their key officials weeks before Election Day to avoid getting too friendly and accommodating to local candidates. David Santos, CNN Philippines.
A check on our global headlines. Vice President of the French Heritage Foundation says there are no trees in France large enough to replace the ancient beams in the roof of the historic Notre Dame Cathedral. The roof, constructed of oak wood from the 13th century, was destroyed after a fire at the iconic church that burned for several hours. The fire was finally contained early Tuesday morning. It's unclear if there are any trees in Europe that could be imported to Paris. The blaze also destroyed the 850-year-old cathedral's iconic spire. French President Emmanuel Macron has vowed to rebuild the Cathedral of Notre Dame and to make it even more beautiful. The cathedral's full restoration is expected to take between 10 to 15 years. Now, good news is that the restored spire and roof will be rebuilt to modern standards and be better equipped to withstand future fires. Pledges to donate money to help rebuild Notre Dame Cathedral now top $700 million. The 3 richest families in France have led the fundraising efforts, including the billionaires behind L'Oreal Cosmetics, the Louis Vuitton brand, and the Pinol family, which operates a luxury brand conglomerate. Hollywood actress Salma Hayek is married to its CEO. Iconic brands like Christian Dior, Givenchy, Gucci, Yves Saint Laurent are part of the effort. Investigators are now trying to determine what caused the cathedral in Paris to go up in flames Monday. Experts say it could take months to assess the damage. And a potential major medical breakthrough, Israel researchers have 3D printed a heart using a patient's own cells. The researchers say their 3D heart is small, the size of a rabbit's heart, but larger human hearts could be created using the same technology. The 3D printed heart could affect the lives of thousands awaiting transplants for end-stage heart failure each year.
Speaking of medical breakthroughs, the growing use of marijuana may be having an impact on how patients are treated at hospitals. A new report says people who regularly use pot may need more sedation when undergoing medical procedures. CNN's James Dinan has a closer look in today's Health Minute.
Do cannabis users require a different approach to medical care? When it comes to sedation, the answer may be yes. That's according to a new report in the Journal of the American Osteopathic Association. When it comes to undergoing medical procedures, the study found patients who regularly use marijuana may need 2 times the level of sedation required by non-users. Researchers focused their study at one community hospital in Colorado. They found that people who reported smoking or using edibles on a daily or weekly basis required more of these 3 most common sedation drugs: 20% more midazolam, 14% more fentanyl, and 220% more propofol. That's what's needed to float into unconsciousness. It was a small study with just 25 cannabis users, so more research needs to be done. But experts say the study highlights the need to ask patients about pot use, saying it can be an effective tool for assessing medical needs and possible risks. And that's especially important with pot use increasing around the world. According to a United Nations report, marijuana use has increased 43% in the United States between 2007 and 2015. For today's Health Minute, I'm James Dinan reporting.
President Rodrigo Duterte says he will respond to the viral videos tagging him, his family, and his political supporters to the illegal drug trade. The president says he will release information from foreign intelligence reports in a few days, adding he's just perfecting them. The allegations in the videos were made by a certain alias Bicoy. The president's 14-year-old daughter, Veronica Kitty Duterte, and the president's common-law wife, Hanilet Avancenia, were tagged in a new video called Ang Totoong Narco List, which made rounds on social media. The video alleged the two were fixing bank transactions from their supposed kickbacks in the drug trade during their trips to Hong Kong. Meantime, busy day ahead at the country's transport terminals with more people traveling today for the Holy Week break. At least 60,000 passengers are expected at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport on the last day before the long weekend, while the Araneta Center management says some 7,000 to 8,000 passengers may arrive at the bus terminal and bus port. Travelers are encouraged to arrive at terminals early.